Welcome to this month's patron request video. This month, my patron on Patreon requested that I review Invincible, the animated TV series on Amazon Prime. So I watched the first 2 episodes with my girlfriend, and I don't know if we're gonna keep watching it. It's like we were both pretty interested in the story itself, but there's no beating around the bush. This is the most violent thing I have ever seen. Bar none. I have seen Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. I have played Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. And this show is really, really violent. Just the sheer amount of gore that is on display is something that I have never seen before. I'm not saying it's the most violent thing that there ever is. I'm sure that there's some, show or movie that I haven't seen that is more violent than this. But yeah, I heard it was violent, but I didn't know it was this violent. And I think it was pretty shocking to my girlfriend too. And it's not like she's, a wilting daisy. She could handle some stuff, but I think that we were both pretty I think there's a line. There's a line in that determines what amount of violence I am able to comfortably digest. And I think that Invincible crossed that line, which is really weird. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to watching even more of the show. But I would only want to do it if I was watching it with my girlfriend. And I don't know if that's something that she really wants to do. I'll have to ask her about it. But yeah, let's talk about the show and what I thought of it. So, the art style of the show is hearkening to sort of the current landscape of Warner Brothers animation, where it has a certain style to it. It's kind of weird. It's it's got more angular features on the humans. It has clean vectored outlines. I'm a big fan of clean vectored outlines. And yeah, the default art style when nothing, gory is happening, looks like it is just a modern digitally 2D animated superhero flick. And I think that's kind of the point of what it's trying to do. It's trying to use just that art style and sort of use it for its own purposes. I feel like Invincible, from just these 2 episodes I've seen, I don't know if I'll watch more. If I do watch more, maybe I'll make an update video. I don't know. But from what I've seen so far, it seems like Invincible is trying to be sort of a deconstruction of the whole superhero genre, where it's superhero things have been around for so long that there are tropes about tropes. People who just get into a costume and don't even have a mask on, and all of a sudden people don't know who they are. Their secret identity is whatever. It's this is the kind of show that understands all of those tropes and wants to really examine them. And so, one of the biggest things that it does in doing that is having this art style that clearly is trying to, on its default art, when characters are just talking to each other, it looks like this is a squeaky clean superhero flick that's just fine for kids to be watching on a Saturday morning. But then it shows, okay, so what happens if these superheroes, if this guy is powerful enough to throw a baseball clear around the earth, what happens when he punches a mere mortal? It turns out that the mere mortal dies and is very bloody about doing it. And this show, it wants to explore that in such clear and vivid detail. And so, like, talking about it, I can kind of respect what it's doing. I'm not the biggest fan of superhero stuff. You know, like, I watch the MCU, I've seen a few TV series. I really like DC superhero girls, but that's sort of like bucking the trend of superhero flicks in its own way. But Invincible, it wants to do something else. And it's like art, good art challenges. Good art has a way of getting into your mind and making you examine things. And sometimes the things it wants you to examine aren't always the most comfortable of things. And Invincible really gets into there. Like, it doing what it does and utilizing the visuals that it does, just the visceral, and I mean visceral in every possible meaning of the word, just the sheer visceral imagery that it employs is challenging for me. Like, yeah, it's like before this, the most violent stuff I'd ever really seen in animation was Genndy Tartakovsky's season 5 of Samurai Jack and Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. But it felt like Samurai Jack and Primal, like, it's hard to explain. I feel like those two shows have some restraint, and that it's like it feels like the violence belongs there a bit more. I don't think I can explain it that well, but that's just how I feel. But in Invincible, from these 2 episodes I've seen, and from what I understand, like, I ain't seen nothing yet if I do continue to watch the series. Invincible, it doesn't feel right to me. And maybe it feels right to someone else. Yeah, it's like the story that it's telling, I do find pretty compelling. It's, you know, a story about a superhero finding their powers and then carving out their niche in the world. But then it also is like doing things like subverting stuff with Omni-Man, you know, almost going rogue. I'm sure that the answers to exactly what happened at the end of the first episode will be forthcoming, but yeah. But I think that Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal basically meets me at my limit for the level of violence that I'm comfortable seeing. And I think that my limit wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't so elegantly made. Like, it's like it builds up to the violence and and when the violence eventually does erupt, it feels right in a way. But in Invincible, it just sort of appears. It's like, I don't feel like it earns it, and I certainly don't feel like it earns having that level of it. So, like, I'm not gonna say that Invincible is bad or that you shouldn't watch it. I'm sort of just thinking out loud right now. Like, this is art that challenges me. It's like it shows me things in a way that it does make me uncomfortable. But I don't know if it's the bad kind of uncomfortable. But the fact that I don't really just want to watch it, the rest of it on my own, kind of makes me feel like maybe it is the bad kind of uncomfortable. I don't know. It's like, yeah. It's been a while since I have seen something that just on a pure visual level I couldn't stop thinking about it the next day. It's like I watched this last night. I watched these 2 episodes, and these two like these 2 episodes have just sort of been in my mind during today. And just like replaying the most gory scenes in my mind. It's kind of weird and, kind of uncomfortable because that's not something that I want my mind to be dwelling on. And so, yeah, like Invincible is art that challenges me with its sheer level of violence. And yeah, I am having trouble trying to spit out all my thoughts. It's like, yeah, I can't help but just keep comparing it to Primal, because it's like, Primal is so tame in comparison. It hardly ever goes into gore. It hardly ever, and the thing about Primal is it's a lot shorter. Each episode is its own self-contained thing, and they're only 22 minutes long. But each episode of Invincible is 44 minutes long. It's like watching these 2 episodes, there are movies shorter than that. And yeah. And so, yeah, Invincible also just sort of like opens my mind again to what animation can be, what you can do with the art form. Because it's like, like Invincible isn't the first, adult, quote unquote, animated show that delves into violence. But it's like a bunch of those, adult shows, they have violence that is, it feels like what they're trying to do is just being like, oh, look at us, we're a cartoon, but we have, incredible amounts of blood and gore. And that's, weird because usually cartoons are for kids. It's like, it feels like Invincible is past that. It's like, yeah, cartoons can be for kids, and we're using an art style for our characters and stuff that could be easily be used in a kids show. But yeah. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to have any better takes in this review. I'll just say that it was competently made. Like, clearly, the people who actually made this stuff, the animators and artists, they are completely competent at what they do. It's like the movement is a bit limited, but that's par for the course. And I just want to, I wonder what the animators were going through. Because it's like, when you're actually making something, when you make something from the ground up, you kind of become desensitized to what it is. And so it's like, some artist had to be the first one to draw the first frame where, a head was exploding in clear and vivid detail. Like, and the way the animation is, you have to look at frame by frame by frame of everything you do backward and forward dozens of times, making sure that you got it right. And so I wonder what it was like for the animators who made these sequences. Like, did they feel disturbed ever? Did they just be like, oh yeah, so like really what I'm really focusing on is just, these shades and colors and making sure that I get good follow through from this action, being a good animator? Or I don't know. Yeah, Invincible is challenging art for me. I'm glad that I watched these first 2 episodes, but no promises if I'm going to finish the entire series. the way that this patron request works is you either request a movie or a series, and then I will watch enough episodes of that series that it basically equals the running time of a movie. And so yeah, like yeah. Invincible. I got nothing more productive to say. Thanks for watching.